Om Ariva Ratanabao Samhatra Yatra Najaha Sa Eshon Chostarate Buhuda Jayamanaha Om Mityevam Jayasa Atmanam Svastivaha Paraya Tamasa Parastat Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. There, in the center, at the heart, where all the hundreds and thousands of subtle nerve waves meet and merge, like the spokes of a chariot wheel at the hub, abides the Atman. Meditate upon that great self as Om, and Godspeed to you in crossing over to the farthest shore beyond all darkness. Om, peace, peace, peace. For there shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us, sustain us, and illumine our thinking consciousness. May we be free of fault-finding and always inspired by the essence and depth of the Dharmic teachings. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us. May peace be unto all. Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. And speaking about merging, we meet here to merge back into the subject of the Advaya Taraka Upanishad. We learned last week in the first class that Taraka, in the context of this Upanishad and what it means, signals to cross over something. And so in the very first slokas, to jump right to it, we found out that the Rishi was telling us the ocean of samsara, basically he's calling it the akashas, the various worlds within. They're very attracting. Like this world out here is very attracting, alluring. And so much so that, as Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, people go to the garden, but they forget to go find the gardener who put all of this wonder together. And so that way they get sort of hypnotized by outer show. And we know that if we want to remedy that, we can go to call this the outer Atman instead of calling it samsara or Maya. Maybe we should keep both in mind, because it's Maya if you think it to be so. That is, if you don't think Brahman is real. But if you know Brahman is real, then this Maya itself becomes a kind of expression of Brahman. That's called Saguna Brahman in the old days. Old times in India, I mean, with the rishis, like who wrote these Upanishads. They looked at it and they said, well, yeah, it's got defects in it. Later on, they'd be named what Buddha called birth, growth, old age, decay, and death. Later, we're taught much earlier, a couple thousands of years earlier, by the father of Samkhya Yoga, Lord Kapila. So that's always been there in their mind, that when we look at the outer Atman, we have to keep in mind that it has these shortcomings, these defects, these anomalies, these conditionings, these modifications, these overlays, these affectations, and this allurement to it that causes people to forget their true nature. First, they forget themselves, and then they forget the Lord, who is the mother of the self. And so this is kind of a process of Maya. Sometimes they talk about it in terms of 16 evolutes of Maya. So they didn't map all those 16 evolutes of Maya down just for nothing. And then later on, oh, well, that's nothing. We can just call this Saguna Brahman. But they kept both in mind, the idea that the changing Brahman had its faults, just like anything changing does. And some of that changes in the body in terms of decay and old age eventually. And some of those are in the mind in terms of brooding and suffering and forgetfulness, ignorance, all these things. So we studied pretty deeply the first two slokas of the Advaya Taraka Upanishad last week, and I want to reiterate them a little bit, and then we can go deeper into it and take up the third and fourth and fifth slokas. We have just 3 weeks to complete this, but we are on track, because it's a very short Upanishad with no more than 8 slokas in it. So if you've done 2 already, you're making good progress. If you have that kind of goal in mind, basically we like to just sit and milk these slokas, contemplate them deeply, and we find out that just like reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in this age, you can read it a number of times. I myself has done that and still keep getting more and more of this essence from it. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that your consciousness is growing, expanding. Not the consciousness with capital C. We know that that Atman that we just chanted about does not grow or shrink. It doesn't go through all of these changes or modifications. That's the Supreme Atman that we looked at a few weeks ago when we studied the Atma Upanishad. But now we're studying the Advaya Taraka Upanishad right on its heels. So I gave you that order because the Atma Upanishad gave you that teaching of outer Atman, inner Atman, and transcendent Atman. So the Advaya Taraka wants you to cross over something. And most beings with some sort of sense and some sort of deeper intelligence have kind of figured out that this is a place of change and that it's very difficult to find peace here. It's very difficult to be happy here. It's very difficult even to find contentment here. And it's very difficult to find Brahman, God, here. It doesn't take long for the Samkhya yogi or the Raja yogi or the Vedantist or the Buddhist or the Sufi to figure out that those are the restrictions of the outer Atman, the change, if you want to call it that. If you want to just call it Maya and be done with it, then you're one of those few rare souls called monastics that prove the existence of God by the renunciation of the world. There would not be so many thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of monks in the world, and both male and female. If this group of individuals didn't find out that I think I want to withdraw from this, and there's a good reason to do that, because it's very difficult to penetrate through the appearances here without getting allured by them when you try. And some people don't even try, they just give it up. That's the devil, really, if you want to find the devil. But Vedanta is not a demonic path, as somebody called it recently. If that's demonic, then we're all fortunate to have found it, and we're getting rich by the teachings in it. It's giving all of religion, Christianity included, a facelift in this day and age, because it's exactly what Jesus taught in so many words. So we're finding out that when we go deeper into Upanishads, we go farther back to this earlier age that's an age of truth, whereas this later age is an age of ignorance. It's probably obvious to most people that that's the case. And some of those people then are of a monastic temperament. So they'll withdraw from the world, sit in silence. Even the yogis will sit in a cave and so forth, withdraw from phenomena and be done with emotionalism, be done with sensationalism. These are the two problems. The worldly have the problem with the emotionalism, and the pseudo-spiritual people have the problem with sensationalism, the miracle mongers. But the Buddhists, the Vedantists, the Sufis of a deeper leaning, they don't have those problems. They've solved those problems, and they've resolved them into teachings like this. Truth teachings, Dharma teachings, teachings that go beyond even morality and ethics, and take you straight to the heart of the higher knowledge. They call that Vijnanam, or even just Jnanam would be enough in India to open your eye. And that's the Dharakasha and the heart, calling it here. In the Upanishad, we had that listed right away, right, as concomitants to Taraka Yoga. So they're also calling the top middle of the skull, or known as the Sahasrara chakra, as the Brahmarandra. So they have these very powerful words for these two places that have physical locations on our heart and our mind. And we're going to get deeper into those teachings, the Dharakasha and the Brahmarandra, or sometimes they call that also the Sambhavi Mudra, is if you find out the akasha in the heart, these inner heavens that Jesus talked about, the kings of heaven are within you. You find those out by opening this third eye, and then you decide you want to stay with that vision. You don't want to forget that, what you've seen. And then they call this the Sambhavi Mudra. Mudra really means a kind of position that you assume. There are different kinds of mudras, like I was saying. So the best mudra they like to attain then, after they see the Harakasha in the heart, is this Sambhavi mudra here. That means I'm now residing in the third eye, and that's the highest. That's the goal of Taraka Yoga, or what the Advaya Taraka Upanishad is trying to teach us, is to have, if you want to put it in that way, raise your consciousness to a higher level of refined vibration and abide there in that mudra, that higher mudra. But you cannot do that until you see these inner worlds, because this outer world isn't the only um, uh, um, atmosphere to try and transcend. Right? Taraka means to go beyond or to pass over, transmigrate over. If you do that, then you'll find yourself back in the heavens with your ancestors, and that is a return back to Earth with human beings, animals, and so forth. So that's a cycle that beings are on all the time. We're going. It's just like for us waking and dreaming. In one lifetime, you can have concourse with the outer worlds, five elements, and all of this. And then you go to sleep at night and you take that and you make it a subtle realm of heaven and you go there. So you're going back and forth between earth and heaven all the time in one lifetime. That's even before you leave the body. So many people would not probably make that connection, but when you fall asleep, you are in heaven. And also, this also makes a statement for being in hell. It's not a physical location. Hell and heaven are not physical locations. They're in the mind. So when your mind dreams, it goes into, if it's dreaming pleasantly with pleasant experiences that it had out here, then that state that's called Jagrat becomes Swapna. The waking becomes dream. And then you're in heaven. Where else would heaven be but within inside of you? It's not up, it's not down, not to the left, not to the right. Even Moses said that. So it's got this inside. That's where we would call the Antaratman, right? The outer is this manifested changing Atman. The inner, the Antaratman, is also changing, but its changes are much more subtle. And the worlds are much more diverse in your dreams. As you could see, consciousness is passing from experience to experience in your dream, right? And then you come out. We were just talking about that before we came on the air with this class, that sometimes I'll have dreams of my students and then they'll show up at class the next day from a far distant city, say. So all of these connections are constantly being made in the outer Atman and the inner Atman. And then there's the Supreme Atman that's changeless. So this Taraka Yoga, they call it in the Advaya Taraka Upanishad, wants you to transcend the outer and the inner. The outer has that allurement to it, and they get attached to it. But once that attachment gets neutralized, or at least attenuated, then they start living more in their inner self, the Antaratman. And then even when they pass in the body, then they'll go to these inner realms of name and form. Time and space is altered there. Name and form are conditional, but they're still there. But in that Supreme Atman that the Upanishad is asking you to pass over to, all of those names and forms and time and space dissolve, and you're there one with the Lord. You are that. That's where the Advaita teachings become most important and best expressed, is in that Paramatman. Sometimes they call that Shantatman. That means the Atman that's always peaceful. So we looked at that by saying these, and I'll repeat them for you now. That which helps you cross the worlds of fear, of birth, aging, and death is called Tarakam. Tarakam means to cross. Understanding the appearance of the living being as God as separate entities is due to is due to illusion, and then examining and understanding the differences which exist in the world by the method of not this, or it is and it is not. At last, what remains is Advaya Brahman, that which does not have two forms. So Advaya means not seeing two anymore. So the outer world, it was separate from Brahman before, right? But now that's disappeared. So it's obviously that it wasn't everlasting. The everlasting is somewhere inside me. So then I go inside of me and I find out that my dreams, or these realms within, what they're calling Dahara Akasha here, these inner Akashas are also changing and passing all the time. So actually, if you don't build your house on sand, but build it on bedrock, the sand would be of two different kinds in Vedanta. One would be the sands of the physical world, atomic particles changing and vibrating and shifting all the time. But there'd also be a second kind of sands called your thought sands. And those are shifting all the time too, obviously, because you're thinking differently, you're dreaming differently. There's nothing solid and standing still and eternal there. The everlasting is still has a changing face on it, right? So I would say two kinds of sand there that Jesus was talking about. To build it on the bedrock would be to build it on the everlasting, never changing, that which is ever free and never bound. And that's that Shantatman, or that Paramatman, the Supreme Self, which is one with Brahman. I am my Father are one, or Tattvamasi in Sanskrit. That very self, that very Brahman, the self is one with that. They also say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that. The self is Brahman, I am Atma Brahma. So those are Upanishadic statements that are so illuminating. So there you have basically the first sloka repeated for you. And I showed you the web chart. I showed you 3 different charts last week that would explain this very enigmatic statement here where he says, understanding the appearance of the living being and God as separate entities is due to ignorance. So if you go around the world thinking I and my Father are two, or God is separate from me, then that's called ignorance, or avidya in Sanskrit. But there are some souls that go around saying all of this is one, at one-ment. See, I and my Father are one. So they're seeing even the external Atman, although it changes, and they know that, as an outer expression of this one reality. So you say, ever one, appearing as two, manifesting as the many, is how you could say that. Ever one means it's always Brahman and none other than Brahman, and Brahman's ever Advaya, doesn't have two to it. Then it appears as two means, oh, what comes forth? The eternal divine couple, masculine, feminine. Those two exist after the one. So it's Shiva, Shakti comes next. So that one Brahman is appearing as this intricate and infinite wisdom principle and its ability to express itself through its Shakti. You see, Sri Ramakrishna would explain that, Vedantically speaking, to say it's like a snake in its wriggling motion. Sometimes the snake's still, you say, oh, all of a sudden it wriggles. So it has this activity present in it. So in that way, Brahman, the dynamic, the static reality, has the dynamic ability in it to express itself. This is more leaning towards a tantric view. And like this Upanishad is leaning more towards yoga. And now it begins to lead more towards Kundalini yoga. So here's what the next part of this, which we want to get into, is about. And I read it last week. In the middle of the body, there exists the Sushumna Nadi, which is as bright as the sun and as cool as the moon. It starts from Muladhara, that's the base of the spine, and goes up to the Brahmarandra, which is the top and middle of the skull. It is well known that in that middle there exists Kundalini, which is as bright as crores of suns and as thin as a lotus thread. Remember that last week we had. The one who sees that with his mind's eye attains salvation by getting rid of all desire for transmigration. So then you would have to, as I chanted at the beginning of this class, meditate upon this this self as Om, right there in the center of the heart, where all the subtle nerve endings meet. The Sushumna is the main artery which fulfills the inner realms with worlds. And these worlds right here, these physical ones, are also part of that. That's called Muladhara. And when you go to the realm of your ancestors, that's called uh, uh, Swadhisthana and Manipura, the second two chakras. And if you go beyond that to the heart, here we have Taraka. You see, now I've gone beyond Bhur Bhuva Swaha. You might recognize that from the Gayatri mantra. I've gone beyond the three worlds of cyclic transmigration. So this is what the Upanishadic seer here is trying to get us to do. And to refer to our one-eyed chart here, then we can look at that and show you how he's using, what kind of technique he's using to do this. Now, if I can make this thing behave me. Because it has a mind of its own, you know. Then I can call up my copy of this chart. So the main title of it is The Esoteric Practice of Advaya Taraka Yoga. And the subtitle, Crossing Over the Suffering-Filled, Ignorance-Prone Sea of the World. That's called samsara, or we could also call it Maya. And we had the first quote already. All that is perceived by the sensory organs is with form. That which is between the two eyelids is without form. The Dharakasha, the inner realms, can only be seen with the mind's eye. The yogis utilize the mind's ability to concentrate and comprehend to see what is beyond both the universe and the mind. This is Taraka Yoga. So basically, you want to open this inner eye to see what's in the heart, to be able to transcend what's below the heart. You just want to put it very simply. So these lower three worlds are lokas or chakras. You could call them either way. And then the heart chakra, if you reach there, it puts an end to transmigration between the animals, humans, and ancestors and demigods. Puts an end to that kind of reincarnation. That's what they want you to pass over, Taraka. They want you to pass over that and become realized. And so that's going to put you in a realm that's the kingdoms of heaven within. And you can see how vast these are really due to your dreams. Or if you're a deep meditator, you might have some visions of those realms. In your swapna condition, when you're dreaming, there's all sorts of amazing things that can happen. Just a subtle version of what happens in the amazing things that happen out here in the physical world. So you can then get waylaid by those. But they say if you don't want to get stuck in the Dharakashas all the time, then you open up this third eye. So the whole chart is really based upon that. The monk here meditating beyond the world here, above the clouds, in the mountains, even beyond those, beyond these stars, beyond the universe of name and form in time and space, and finding out that there's a Dharakasha that this has come from. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam. All of that external has come from the internal. They're both infinite, but there's a supreme infinite that holds them both. And so all of this is infinite, all of this is Brahman, but you have to have this inner eye open in order to see it as that. If that eye is closed, you don't see it as that. You'll see suffering, you'll see beauty, you'll see cycles of birth and death, you'll see the ocean of suffering, samsara, You'll see lifetimes full of happiness, which nonetheless is unfulfilling. There's all sorts of activity that's going on in the akasha and the Daharakasha. Open up this is important, he says. So there's pretty much the chart. Now, he goes on to say that in this middle quote, free of batting the eyelids constantly. Batting means, of course, opening and shutting all the time. Free of batting the eyelids constantly is in order to see what lies outside and what lies inside. The yogi arrives instead to see that which is known to the luminaries as the Sambhavi Mudra, the supreme position of deepest peace attended by sweetest bliss. That's a nice description of the Sambhavi Mudra, which is here. So it's an interesting predicament that people find themselves in spiritual life. And Holy Mother addressed it one time, but she said, does God exist only when your eyes are closed and cease to exist when your eyes are open? So of course not. God exists at all times, whether eyes are closed or open. So the meditation practitioner is constantly batting the eyelids, the Rishi says. Probably watched his students for a while, watched his children if he had any, and saw that they would sit for meditation and close their eyes, and then they'd open them, get up and walk away, and they'd keep doing this every day after day. That's batting the eyelids all the time. Now God doesn't exist, now God does exist, now God doesn't exist, now God does exist. But when God does exist, I never really saw him yet. What I was seeing was the Daharakasha, seeing all these beautiful realms inside me. When my eyes were open, I saw these beautiful realms outside me. Space, planets, plants, water, earth, fire, ether, people, society, relationships, countries, all in the outer world. Then when I closed my eyes, either in sleep or in meditation, I saw that these worlds were also existing within me. All heavens are within you. And so I batted my eyes constantly like that. What I never saw was God. See, I didn't see God when eyes were open, and I didn't see God when eyes were closed, because God's not there in the external world. God's not there in the internal world. God is transcendent, parity. God is formless. God is nameless. God is timeless. But even in dreams, there's time passing. So where is that timeless essence? Where can I find it? How can I connect with it? And I want to merge with it. And then I'm free for all times, whether I come out or whether I go in, or whether I give up outer and inner completely and just sit in one place like Buddha did for a long time. And that's called Shambhavi Mudra. See, that's here. He arrived here and he stayed there. And this also splits the lotus up to the crown of the head. So as bright as crores of suns and as thin as the lotus thread is that Sushumna Nadi, which reaches beyond all the nerve endings. So I just chanted hundreds and thousands of nerve endings meet in the heart. One of the things that's mentioned here, which we'll get to later, is what do they see? They see where all the nadis lead and end. So that's going to place you there at the two-petaled lotus, they call it, or into the thousand-petaled lotus. All the nadis meet and merge and end there. Below that, I can show you a chart for this next week. Below that, these hundreds and thousands of nadis are going to all sorts of different locations in the body. Whose body? The Lord's body, not your body. It's in the Lord's body where all of these Vishva Rupam, you see, it's that body that holds all the heavens. The Lord is there as the container of all of that. We like to call her Shakti because she then directs force and manifests things and takes them back and projects and dissolves them through the Trinity, for instance, through AUM. And so in that way, then you're finding that if you can reach this Sambhavi Mudra, which they're saying here is so important, then that's the steady position that's attended by the highest knowledge, the sweetest bliss, and the deepest peace, you see. And the one who sees that with the mind's eye, attains salvation by getting rid of the desire for transmigration. So that ends that cycle of, I want to go back to the world and I want to come, I'm going to die now, I'm going to leave the world. I want to see my ancestors again. No, now I want to go back again with them and have some more fun. You see, around and around we go. Where we stop, nobody knows, because it can't stop because it never really began. It's all a dream going on in your head. So the teachers, the acharyas, probably better to call them acharyas because guru is a word that's been meddled with too much. But the acharya gives you this wisdom that gives you permission to take your feet off the path of limitation and put your feet on the path of liberation. Take them off the path of limitation and on the path of liberation. That's what this is signifying. And so the great teachers will tell you that. And therefore, they'll take you beyond things like conventional religion, belief systems, and attachments, and limitations. And then that will, when you see this innate freedom, which exists in the heart and in the mind, then that will take away your desire to transmigrate anymore and say, I think I'd rather just sit and watch that. And say, I don't think I'll participate in it anymore. Talking about hundreds and thousands of monastic people who are practicing that Taraka yoga right now. I've gone beyond the world. I think I like it. I've maybe spent 10, 20, 30, 50, or like my teacher who is a sannyasin for 90 years. I spent so many decades just witnessing this, not participating in it anymore. And I found out that limited happiness went away and eternal bliss came to me. On and off contentment with things here went away and eternal peace came to abide in me. Lower knowledge didn't satisfy me, as Vivekananda says. So higher knowledge came and then I was completely satisfied. And so these beings are making that definitive conclusion about life in the three worlds, the worlds of transmigration. It's a very rare and subtle thing, basically because most people are completely dedicated to life, family, wealth, lands, children, and more of that. As my teacher used to say in one of his lectures, satiation never comes through that. You cannot satiate yourself. This will just keep going and keep going. So on each cycle of samsara, we saw that in the web chart, Yoga Vasishtha's chart last week, when Manas was trying to get out of suffering. He finally found a place at the end of one of his lives where he saw a glimpse of freedom and he gave out a horrible laugh. And then he fell back down into the well of suffering again. The next time he came out, he did the cycle of pain and pleasure, went beyond the desire to transmigrate back into his old self again, and found a teacher. And the teacher gave him this highest wisdom, and he broke the chains of birth and death. He snapped the chains of birth and death. There's a beautiful song to Sri Krishna about that. So at that point, he got free from transmigration. Well, that's what we're talking about here. At every cycle, there's an opening where the soul has a chance to break and snap that chain of going back to living the same old life again. To have being born in a physical body in the womb of a woman. By being born and having to go to school again and again and again without really realizing the highest lesson, that all knowledge is within you. Why are you continuing to do this? All knowledge lies within you. Open up this inner nadi, this sushumna, and connect it to the Sambhavi mudra. That is, go beyond the outer realms, transmigration, go beyond the inner realms of heaven, and go to this supreme position of oneness with Brahman, Advaita, or Advaya. So that one who sees constant light at the top portion of his head, in the middle of his eyebrow, has attained mastery of yoga. Vivekananda said that I've seen a light my whole life. So he told Sri Ramakrishna, I see this light. Swami Abhedananda also saw that. they told their master, Sri Ramakrishna, he said, that's good. That's because you're an accomplished yogi. That's real, that light. So the Upanishad's coming back and affirming that. That one who sees constant light in the top portion and in the middle of his forehead has attained mastery of yoga. Sloka 3. Sloka 4. Wherever it is, if there's light above the head, that one is a yogi. And of course, a yogini, if they're in the woman's body. Sloka 5. This yoga is of two types, purva and uttara. Now we're getting into some of the teachings. So purva means pre-yoga. It's a preparation for everything. That is, first you're going to have to get beyond your attraction to the physical world, the physical body, and ancestors and families and things like that. That's the pre-yoga. I'm jumping a little bit ahead here because I want to show you a chart that shows you the Sushumna. But basically, the post-yoga is called Uttara, and that's the pre-yoga is Taraka. That's why the yoga you're practicing. I gave this up. Sri Ramakrishna said, you cannot have God realization until you give up the world mentally. Mentally. So, of course, people who are attached to physical things, they've got a whole nother set of problems. But for the person who's seeking freedom, who's really sincere about it, give up this world mentally, Sri Ramakrishna said. So you can see how ancient that teaching is that he's bringing out in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And that's Taraka Yoga right there. You want to get yourself free of this constant births and deaths on the physical realm. I mean, where do you find this teaching in any other religion of the world? Where? Buddhism is not different to me than Indian religion, sorry. So this idea of liberation as compared to salvation is a good one. You see, that's the highest goal. In fact, Buddha talked about that as being the paragatam. You know, gatam, gatam, gatam. Oh, paragatam, he said, you see. There are goals, and there are goals. But then there's this supreme goal. See? And that's that light shining at the top of a illumined person's head. It's they're just like, you can't see it all the time, but doesn't it sound like an aura to you? You know, so if you had that psychic ability, as some people have, you see, what's that light shining up there on your head? Well, I don't see it. You know, you look in the mirror, it's not there, you see. But it's there in the Sambhavi area, you see. So you're carrying around this light, and the light might as well mean, I know God, I am God. There's no difference between me and God, between I and Brahman. The Jivatman is the Paramatman. As soon as it drops these sheaths, it'll know that. But there's a way of knowing it while you're in the sheaths. And while you're in your sheaths is one of the best way to understand Taraka Yoga. I see I'm getting drawn into these cycles. How many lifetimes have I lived? See? And is this the last one? Maybe can I put an end to this suffering, to this ignorance, and just go back and be one with my Father again? That will give me such sweet bliss. That will give me such deep wisdom. That will give me such abiding peace if I can do that. And I can bat and open my eyelids all I want. It won't matter, you see. So Purva and Uttara, pre and post levels. The Purva is Taraka Yoga. Means you must first get that idea that I'm on a cycle and it's got to break. And I'll get free when that happens. Second, you've got to get Uttara Yoga. That means you've got to go beyond your mind. So that's why this is important to this, you see. The first three, right? Sushumna Nadi is a physical representation, description. It's actually, this whole Sushumna is in your mind. It's not in your body. Don't fall victim to naive thinkers who try and tell you that the chakras are physical and so forth. The whole thing is in your mind, all the Sushumna. And that's what we want to look at now as a complementary chart. Let's look at this. And while you look at that, I'll read you this three great aims. So basically, um, yeah, so back to sloka 2. The man who sees that all of this with the mind's eye attains salvation by getting rid of all transgressions. Um, sees a constant light in the middle of his forehead, attains mastery of yoga. Then the yoga within is of two types. We just said that. Outer and inner is purva and uttara. The pre-yoga is taraka, how to transcend the physical cycles, and the post-yoga is amanaska, above the mind. And then it says that which can be realized by sensory organs is one which has a form. That which is in between the eyelids is without form. Always for understanding the things within, practice of deep application of mind is necessary. In Taraka Yoga, concepts like the Harakasha are understood only by the mind's eye. So from the physical level, you can't really understand the akashas in your heart. You can only dream about them, maybe. But it have to arrive, take your consciousness to the third eye, to go beyond the mind, to be able to see, witness all of the worlds you just came through. It's like going from dreaming into deep sleep. If you could take your consciousness into deep sleep and not forget it, then you would look back the trail you came. So you say, wow, look at all the worlds I just passed through. And that's exactly what the human being in the physical body is, who wakens up spiritually, is looking when he looks back on his past births. Wow, look at all the worlds I came through. So whether you're going forward or backward or up and down or internal or external, this witness consciousness has to develop in you to show you. It's another way of saying, I'm not those worlds I just passed through because I'm still here, you see. I'm not the external worlds. I'm not the internal worlds either. As many and many of them as there are. Brahmandas, there are so many worlds, inner and outer. I'm not any of them because my consciousness has been traversing, you see, going through them. I've been sojourning in the fields of the Lord. I've been looking at all kshetras, fields, Krishna says in the Gita, but I'm the knower of the field, the kshetragya. So similarities, again, like Christ was teaching the same thing as Krishna was teaching earlier, as far as the Harakasha is concerned, basically. They just had very good words and ways of explaining it in Sanskrit in India for thousands of years. So that Harakasha only is seen only by the mind's eye, and its yoga is without form because it's beyond the mind. So while we consider this chart here, let me uh, talk to you about the three great aims. We have to go back to Sloka 1, where it said, at last what remains is the Advaya Brahman. Advaya Brahman means the non-dual Brahman, the light of awareness, pure conscious awareness. Advaya means does not have two forms. To get at that, we have to practice three aims. So here's the three aims. First, locate and focus intensely on the Sushumna Nadi. So if you're a practitioner of Kundalini Yoga, you see your teacher, if he's a good one, say, have you unfurled your sail yet? As they will say. Or has the cobra risen yet? You see. So that's this Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini Shakti that has to be awakened at the base of the spine, carry you beyond the desire for transmigration in the three worlds. This is why people are seeking mother power, realization of Shakti, right? Can you take me beyond the three realms into the highest truth, Mother, oh Mother? The whole scripture's written, mantras about it, and teachings on it. And so Kundalini Yoga focuses in on that. Well, basically, that's the first aim. So let's practice the first aim here for a second. Here's the Sushumna up the middle. You can see it with its two other major nadis, the Ida and the Pingala. So Sushumna is up the middle. Ida and Pingala are on either sides of it. Remember, envision this in your mind, but you can use your body as a sort of example of levels, because you can see they're using it here to help you. Base of the spine, generative organs, navel, heart, throat, forehead, crown of the head, right? Envision this right now, like Ramprasad says. Oh, meditator, you are the goddess. So if you are the goddess, then go ahead and envision yourself as the goddess there with this Sushumna. This is the Dharakasha, you see. These are all the akashas put together at 7 levels. These are the 7 floors of the palace Sri Ramakrishna talked about. We even talk about these 7 in terms of the palace in Judaism. So basically, envision that right now. So sit and envision these inside of your mind. Not just the body, because then there's the Antar Atman you haven't seen yet, right? You go beyond the external Atman, you go to the internal Atman, and you do the practice of Taraka, because if you keep contemplating the external, you will become the external. You will be born in the external again and again. You have to contemplate something more subtle. Why else would you meditate? Oh, I think I'll just meditate on my physical body. That's going to last for just a little while. In fact, you can do that with earth, water, fire, air, ether, and beyond. Those are the 5 elements, right? So they're putting together all of these external and internal qualities and attributes of the ultimate Atman so that you can do this envisionment. See? So basically, the first step is locate and focus intensely on the Sushumna Nadi. Okay, we've located it. Where is it?
It's in the mind.
It's in the mind. I want to hear someone say it, so I'm still not being clear, and people are still thinking of it in the body, just because they're using the body as a convenient way for people to think about it, so they can envision it. Okay, I'll give you that. But let's not stay there, because meditating on the physical is meditating on birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death. But you want to meditate on the eternal Brahman, on the eternal Atman that is one with Brahman. So not just the jiva, but jiva is Shiva, my teacher used to say. Jivatman is Shivatman. When you transcend the jiva, the physical form, you'll find Shiva inside of that. Beyond that, this is Taraka Yoga. Is there another name of Shiva that we can put to this right now? Isn't he named Taraka? Yeah, so this is the yoga of transcendence. So we have located it. Now we focus intensely on it. So if this was a retreat right now, it would have us all take 5 or 10 minutes just to meditate in our minds, our heart and our mind, on this Sushumna Nadi. I want to envision that this is inside of me, you see. Remember, when I say this, we're talking about air, earth, fire, water, and ether. We're talking about the 7 chakras. We're talking about Brahma, Varuna, Agni, Isha, Sadashiva, and Shambhu, the different deities that go with each of these chakras. There are major gods that are presiding over these worlds, just like the greatest man in the physical world is presiding over most of the world right now. And usually that's a conqueror, or sometimes worse. So basically, this inner realm has also got divisions to it. That's the Dharakasha, right? So each of those akashas has a presiding deity. Might be a friendly way of saying it that more people are used to. A presiding deity, or a guardian at the gate, sometimes they say in Tibetan Buddhism. So basically, these are all well mapped out. And I'm bringing this forward so that you can look at all this and see the amazing, vast infinity of everything that's within your mind. The mind that what? Has to be transcended if you want to practice, if you want to consummate Advaya Taraka Yoga. You can't end up in the body in the physical world. You can't end up in the mind. Sorry. These are connected to each other in transmigratory cycles. But that which helps you cross the fear of birth, aging, and death in bodies is called Taraka, that which crosses over them. And first, remember, it passes over urva, right? The physical desire for physical things. Then post, uttara, it passes over desire for mental things. See the connections here in Tantra and Vedanta and Yoga. And they've been talking about this for a long time, body-mind mechanism in Vedanta. It's a lot vaster than you would think. If you milked an Upanishad and if you poked the pinata of an ancient rishi's mind to get forth these wisdom teachings. So I'll have to say this isn't a retreat or a seminar, so you go home and do this. I want you to go home tonight or in your next meditation, envision the Sushumna Nadi, the whole thing as being inside of you, particularly inside your mind. That's a great meditation. I mean, you can use the ocean, you can meditate on the sun, you can meditate on a candle flame, you can meditate on a picture of an ishtam, but try this now. Try this Advaya Taraka Yoga. Meditate on the entire series of everything in the worlds and everything that's in the worlds as being inside of yourself. Because when you see it's inside of your mind as a thought form, it's then that you can finally get beyond thinking. Before that, it's hard to even get beyond doing, right? Isn't doing what you have a body for? Action? That's karma. That's very hard for most people to transcend. But here we're asking you to get beyond the father of doing, action, from action to inaction, if you want to put it that way. Thought is father to the deed, if you want to borrow a Western thing, a thought, you see. And put it in Eastern or Western, either way, but now you have to get to the source of all of this out here. It's in the mind. So then find out everything that's in the mind. Now you have a word for it, the harakasha. Now you have a goal for it, sambhavya mudra, right? You'll never get over either of these other two until you open this. But you have to then graduate to that. So he's giving us a practice for it in this Upanishad. Second, he says, once you've envisioned Kundalini, awaken her from the Muladhara to the Sahasrara. You earlier might have thought of this as, boy, this is going to take forever. I've got to awaken my Muladhara chakra first. I've got to awaken her. And then she's got to come up several lokas, several nadis, several chakras. And then maybe I'll get to the heart chakra. But no, this can happen instantaneously because you are that. Advaya Taraka Yoga is a contradiction in terms, really. To cross over the two to get to the not two. But the two never really existed. There was always just one. And you are always that, right? So this is where you put together Advaita and Vishishtadvaita. It's that I am that, and I'm now meditating on that, you see. And I'm the one that's doing the meditating, and I'm the one I'm meditating upon. It's my very self. It's called self-realization. And it puts to rout. It chases away all these other lesser thoughts and these more devilish desires for powers and such things like that. So that was sloka 3, 4, and 5. And after locating and focusing intently on the Sushumna Nadi, that's this whole freeway. You see, it's an inner road that leads to God. God is here, you're down here, take the highway. See, now it's an inner highway, and you have to do it with your mind's intelligence. What did he say back here? you have to use the method of it is, and it is not. It is this, and it is not this. And at last, what remains known when you use those two is Advaya Brahman, that which doesn't have two forms. See that with the mind's eye and obtain salvation. And the main obstacle, if we can cite it, would be walking around thinking that you're separate from God all the time. Dualism, rank dualism, fundamentalism even. You want to get rid of that idea. Quickly, if possibly, slowly, if necessary. So basically, living being and God are two different things is that ignorance. How many people hold ignorance as their truth? See? But how about holding truth as your truth? The truth is that I and my Father are one. That's always been the case. It will always be the case. It will never not be the case. And that I we're talking about is my very self. Not the ego self, but the true self that they ask you to practice Taraka yoga for. See? Because if you go beyond the mind, you're going to go beyond the ego. Finally, the third aim. So we have two great aims. Are you keeping these in mind? Envision the Sushumna Nadi inside of you with everything in it, everything that you can possibly see here, from the Muladhara to the Swadhisthana to the Manipura to the Anahata to the Vishuddha to the Agya, all the way up to the Sahasrara, which was mentioned in the very first sloka here. And all these languages and all these different kinds of Shaktis, 4, 6, 10, 12, 16, limited down to 2 when it gets here, petals, and then 1,000, or 1,000 really means infinite amount of worlds. So all of this, in all their variety and all their variegation and all their quality and all their quantity is all within you. You're going to envision this as the case. Really? Inside of little old me? No, not the little me. In the true me. You see, in the true I, the Atman, your Buddha nature, if you want to put it that way. That's all within. Kings of heaven are within, but beyond the kings of heaven, they're saying, is this supreme self, where I and my Father are one. So basically, that's number one. Then awaken her. You know, it's not just enough to say, oh, what a beautiful vision in all the worlds. But, you know, it's just like coming here to the garden and not going to see the gardener. You have to inside see the garden of the Taharakasha with all its variegations, and then say, and then have the wherewithal in your intelligence to say, who's lighting this up? See, I mean, what lights up the waking state? Rashmi Mantan, Samudjantan, Devasur Namaskritam. The sun god does. Pujayasha, I do worship to him. Vivashvantam, Bhaskaram, Bhuvaneshwaram. All these beautiful worlds are the Lord's. And the sun lights them all up. But when I go inside, there's another kind of sun that's lighting. Ever ask yourself, what lights my dreams? You know, see, the sun's not there, right? It's out there in the waking state, and you're not there anymore. Your senses are gone. You have inner senses. What lights up everything in your dreams for your inner senses to see what's in dream? I mean, this is all a part and parcel of the meditation you should do when you ask the question, who am I? Some people, I used to see them in the 70s and so forth. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? As they heard Ramana Maharshi say it. And then like a parrot, they go around repeating it. But they haven't done the work. They just think they can ask the question and all of a sudden you're realized. You have to actually go do the work too in spiritual life. The work, according to Sri Ramakrishna, he'd say, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. Say, oh, really? I have to do my responsibilities to my family and my job. No, not that kind of work. Of course you have to do that. But that's just one yoga. There's 3 other kinds of work you have to do. Meditation, study of scripture, and worship. Those are the other 3 yogas. So when Sri Ramakrishna talked about work, he talked about those 3. That's the real work to do. Spend more time in meditation. Study the scriptures with your teacher. Oh, you're already doing that. Pardon me. Great. You're doing that in this very moment. And worship. Conduct your worship, upasana, inside. To the sun god here, to the subtle sun god inside, we were just talking about. And so then you're lighting up everything. So this is in conjunction with number 2. Awaken Kundalini from the Muladhara to the Sahasrara. She's what's causing the sun to burn. She's what's causing the moon to shed its light. She's what's causing lightning flashes, thunder rolls. Na tatra suryabhati, na chandra tarakam. Namo vijutobhati kuto yamagni. We've just recited it as many times, but this is the meaning of it. It says, not by the light of the sun does the sun shine, or the light of the moon does the moon light. So then what does it shine by? You know, it shines by the light of Kundalini, by the mother. And she's there shining as the sun of your Atman, of your true self. So in that way, then, you want to awaken Kundalini. You know, it's not like finding her bedchamber somewhere and shaking her on the shoulder. You have to envision her, you know, as now I see the worlds, right? The Harakasha. Now will you come and open this eye so I can go beyond them? That is, can I graduate the chakras, or am I just going to sit around assigning colors to them, or letters, or thinking about them as being in the body rather than in the mind? I just waste a lot of time. Well, I just wake up Kundalini herself. She'll tell me about the whole garden, and she'll light it up for me. See, and she's your own intelligence. She's what causes you to think higher thoughts. She's what caused this rishi to put these 8 slokas down. Here we are only through 5 of them, and look how rich it is. That's her richness. So let's get on with it. Remove all karmas and transgressions utilizing her power. So if you waken her up, all of these get deified. The elements get deified, and the gods of the elements come out. Oh, he's the god of earth, he's the god of water, he's the god of fire, so forth. All because of she. She is lighting up all of the gods and the deities that are connected with the lotuses inside of the Sushumna, which exists in your mind's eye. And that you're going to be able to see with your mind's eye if you can have her open it at that level and then convince her, thank you, Mother, you opened my third eye. Can you just leave me here for a while? And that's Shambhavi Mudra. Mother, just like Sri Krishna used to say, Mother cat puts the kitten here and there, right? Puts you on, outside on the porch. It just mews, waits for her to come back. She comes back. Oh, I think it's time for the litter box. We better put you over here. So she takes the kitten over there. And then, oh, you're all clean, ready for night. I'll put you on the master's bed. So she jumps on the bed with the cat in her, with her fangs covered by the nape of the neck, and drops the kitty there on the master's bed. So it's like that. Please leave me in the higher realms, Mother. Lead me and leave me. And then I can I can begin to develop a preference for Shambhavi Mudra. I think I'm going to stay here now. All of this can remain as it is. Nothing has changed. The changing is always changing. The unchanging always is. The unreal never is. The real never ceases to be, Krishna says in the Gita. Na asat vijite bhavo na bhavo vijite sataha, he says to Arjuna on the battlefield. So let this be. Let me be at the Shambhavi Mudra. Remove all karmas and transgressions will happen if she does that, because you can look back on your past lifetimes and blast that karma, blast this karma, get rid of that samskara, get rid of that attraction to my worthless ancestors, and get free of bondage and be a free soul. Where's the Jivan Mukta? You see, my teacher used to look at us after he taught us for 10, 20, 30 years. Where's the Jivan Mukta among you? He was just waiting for us to waken up. It's not that difficult. All of this is a mental yoga. You can probably see that by now. You can do physical yoga till you're white in the face, but it doesn't ever awaken you to enlightenment. You have to do a mental yoga, Raja Yoga. And when you do that, then you become blue in the face. You become like Vishnu, you see. And in that way, then this yoga becomes matured in you. And that opens this, that awakens her. Prarutam artam shunyam gunaham shunyanam shunyam gunanam pati prashavaha, trying to recall the Yoga Sutras. Parutam artam shunyam purnanam pati prashavaha koivaya swarupa pratista vachiti shakti iti. Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras. That's his last sutra in all four sections. Shunyanam gunanam prati prashavaha. You have to get to this emptiness, shunyayam, and beyond the gunas, gunanam. And who's going to do that? The Prakasha Shakti is going to do that. Vachiti Shakti, he says. The Chitti Shakti is the mother of your thoughts. That's what you're doing when you're asking her to awaken you see. Because she can take you on her back, see, grab onto the hem of her skirts, or in this case, her sari, and she'll take you to have experiences here, but she might not leave you there. Okay, you got a glimpse, now work. Go back and do some work. So what you want to do then is to develop that wherewithal inside, that's dwelling inside of your own intelligence, to gain some stick-to-itiveness, some staying power, some sthiti pragnasya, some solid wisdom, that I saw the highest truth, and the rest of this it's incomparable to the rest of this. Nothing here satisfies like that does. I must make my way back there, you see. Even if I have to sojourn through all the worlds in the Daharakasha and merge myself in that ocean of Brahman. That's why the first thing we did was to locate it. So we know where we are. And we know also where we can be. But then we have to manage how to get there. So I might say that this is one of the Upanishads that is, I've often said it before, they're not big for method, like yoga is. But here's one Upanishad that's actually giving you quite a great method to do this, and some instruction for it too. It's on a very high level, Advaya Taraka, transcending everything so you can get to the not to, basically. It's almost Buddhist sounding. So those three are the three great aims. So if you want to know this Upanishad inside and out and do deference to the rishi who lived in the body and practiced this yoga, attained it, gave it to his family, and passed it on for generations and yugas down to our present time, then you too can sit and do this yoga. It already encompasses all those kinds of work: karma, bhakti, jnanam, and dhyanam, or raja. Now, we already talked about I think we can leave that as it is, because basically we went through most of it. Should we read the quote there? After great effort and spiritual practice, Kundalini is awakened, says Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. At that time, the mind of the aspirant is withdrawn from the three lower centers. He feels the first awakening of divine consciousness and sees light. I remember the Upanishad talking about that light that's at the top of the head that you feel, and now awakens consciousness is Kundalini. In mute wonder, he sees that radiance and cries, "Oh, what is this? What is this?" So something that is not going to dawn upon the minds of physicists or even probably conventional religionists. It's going to take them by surprise, because to them meditation is a part of a demonic path, you see, maybe. Or study of scripture is not good unless it's only one scripture out of one religion that talks about one divine personality. That's called narrowness of thinking. And we may be wide and vast, but we're not hypocrites. We believe in the great teachers of all religions and the great scriptures in all religions, that they all have something to give us. So in that way, you can see that this quote of Sri Ramakrishna ends with this divine wonderment. So what is that I'm seeing when you envision this and you take your consciousness up it with her as your guide? Spend some time with it. Beings of other religions have also sung about it, about Sri Ramakrishna saying this. And one Muslim devotee sang it this way. Paramaguru Siddha Yogi, Paramaguru Siddha Yogi, Matri Bhakta Yugavatar, Paramahamsa Sri Ramakrishna, Paramahamsa Sri Ramakrishna, Laho Pranam Namaskar. So it means, O great teacher, illumined yogi, devotee of the Divine Mother, and avatar of the age, O supreme soul of my soul, accept my prostrations, accept my salutations. You have awakened Mother Kali, the destroyer of evil, from the sacred cremation grounds of Mother India, and with the nectar of her holy name, you have flooded the land once again. Your mighty austerities have brought the presence of the golden age into this age of ignorance, and sent the healing waters of India's sacred places to all peoples and all countries around the world. In temple, mosque, and church, you worshiped God with equal reverence. Now your blessed name is worshipped throughout the three worlds, Bur, Bhuva, and Swa. O supreme leader of our souls, accept our prostrations, accept our eternal salutations. A beautiful Muslim devotee wrote that about Sri Ramakrishna. So you can see how powerful then all of this is, and how universal, and how it can be termed, put in terms of different yogas, different religions as well. So we took actually a nice big bite this time out of this, because we got to the three great aims and the three successive phases. Let's look a little bit more closely then at the three successive phases, so that we can say that we've accomplished at least the first half of this chart, this lead chart. Again then, as the slokas related, one is Purva Yoga, remember that? Purify the sensory organs and go beyond form. Everything that's external. I must see that its sources inside of me. All the kings of heaven are within me. That kind of teaching. And this is done mentally. I mean, you do it every night and dream. Oh, I see everything's inside of me. Then I come back out here and it's solid. It's physical objects. But I also had thought objects in my dream. So the thought objects have become solid out here, but then you go back to subtle in there. Going back and forth between this is going back and forth between the possibility for purva and the possibility for uttara. Purva means I have to give it up out here. Uttara means I have to go beyond my mind. So it says here, go beyond the sensory organs and therefore go beyond form. That is, go beyond your belief that form is the only thing that exists. There also is a formless essence. That's called Uttara Yoga. Render mind one-pointed so as to open the mind's eye. And that's going to be called going from the Dharakasha to the Sambhavi Mudra. That is, this is where I want to end up in all my thinking, in all my acting, in all my meditations, in all my envisionings. Is that all want to be doing it all from this concentrated place called the Jnana Chakshu. Utkramanpam stiti vyapi bhunjanam, Krishna says in the Gita. It's all coming from that Jnana Chakshu, the third eye. I must awaken that. So 3 aims in 3 successive phases. Isn't it pretty easy to understand? Straightforward. The third successive phase is attain Sambhavi Mudra, the non-dual space of holiness. So then non-duality would be the place from which you could say, I and my Father are one. Or I am the light of the worlds. You'd have to have seen that to be able to make a statement like that. So you've arrived there, and now you, whether you're Jesus, Krishna, Ramakrishna, Buddha, Moses, Muhammad, whoever you are there living in the Sambhavi Mudra with every other great soul who ever existed. They're all having a big party, as it were, inside, dancing, while everyone out here is arguing about which one's better, which religion's better. Meanwhile, all the founders of the religions are having a big party inside the Sambhavi Mudra in eternal peace, sweetest bliss, and highest wisdom. They're all sharing and talking about it. It's like our Thanksgiving a couple days ago. We called it food and philosophy. We're not going to be doing a lot of practice. We're going to meet for Thanksgiving dinner, but the talk will all be about Upanishads and other great teachings. So that is the place to reach and reside. That's abiding in the Atman. What started out here is in the heart. Those are the 3 successive phases. So I want to reread that so we have covered it sufficiently. One who sees constant light at the top portion of his awareness, his head, in the middle of his eyebrow, has attained mastery of yoga. Wherever it is, if there is a light above the head of the one, that one is a yogi. So wherever it is means whatever world they're in. Even here in the physical world, they walk around with an aura, or what we call tejas in India. In the Middle East, call it an aura, but in India, you call it tejas, a shining light. Wherever they are, even in the physical world, they walk around with this light. This yoga is of 2 types, purva, pre-yoga, and uttara, post-yoga. The pre-yoga is Taraka, means transcend this cycle of transmigration. Transcend it right now in your mind. No one can realize God until you renounce mentally. Do it in here. I give this up. It's unreal. And I put in place Brahman, my love, my God, my nearest and dearest, my heart's heart throb, the divine mother of the universe, my Ishtam, the Lord of all the worlds, Maheshwara, whoever it is that's there, I put in place of the renunciation of everything, external and internal, the Lord and Mother of the universe, Ishvara, Ishvari. That's the pre-yoga. That's the first stage. The post-yoga is amanaska. Manaska means, of course, manas, beyond the mind. And then that's 3, 4, and 5. Then sloka 6, that which can be realized by sensory organs is one which has a form. That which is between the eyelids is without form. We already read this in this first quote I put up here. For understanding things within, practice of application of mind is necessary. That's Taraka Yoga. In Taraka Yoga, the concepts like the Harakasha are understood only by the mind's eye. So if you think that each of these chakras is going to awaken in nice, easy succession, everything's going to be nice and sequential, no, not necessarily. What your consciousness has experienced is higher wisdom, then it's going back to earth again. Isn't that what happens in dreaming and waking, right? Sometimes you have good dreams, sometimes you have negative dreams, sometimes you have good days here on earth, sometimes you don't have not so good days. So all of this is happening out of sequence. So he's saying that pretty much here, don't be sidetracked by that. What you really want is to have this goal of opening this once and for all. That's what they've done so that they can talk about reincarnation and rebirth as having been transcended. And then they can talk to you about it. No more birth in the womb of matter for me. Only emanation from my divine mother. That's that light of the sun, right? The inner sun. That's wisdom. I'm coming to various places through this light that was resting on my brow, right? So I'm coming out into physical earth and a physical body with that self-same light. Why else did the three wise men see Jesus shining as a baby? Basically, this is a common known thing in India, is that these great souls come and shine right away. Shankara knew all the scriptures by the time he was 8, of all things. You know, they were miraculous, but no, it was just recall. He was born from that light, in that light, lived in that light, passed back into that light. He doesn't have to practice Taraka Yoga anymore. He's already Advaya. He's already non-dual. He's already Shambhavi Mudra level of things. He's doing everything from there, which is a kind of non-doing. That one who realizes action as inaction as action, that one truly knows. That's describing in the Gita that kind of soul. It has that position in the Shambhavi Mudra. It's a very beautiful teaching. But he's saying ahead of time, you know, all of this is not going to be understood till this is open. You'll have glimpses of it here, 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 but it's not going to be fully understood that, I see that's all my doing. All those worlds are within me. I don't have to transmigrate in them anymore. In fact, they've all come out of me. I'm the master of them. Abhidhamma says that, you know, I'm not a master. Don't call me a master, nor do I need a master. And he's talking from that position of Shambhavi Mudra, the all-knowing Jnana Chakshu. And then the other sloka that we talked about, without batting the eyelids to see inside and outside, what we are aiming to see is called the Shambhavi Mudra. This place wherein an expert in that type of mudra lives becomes very holy. So not only does that person realize his own inner sanctum and lives in that divinity, every place that person goes becomes holy. What does it remind you of? Sri Ramakrishna saying, wherever Swami Vivekananda goes, that place will become holy. So he came here to the West, he went to Europe, went to England, so forth, America. And so he's brought that with us. Because he's brought that with us, we have the possibility of understanding old scriptures like this and systems that are otherwise too esoteric for us to ponder or to understand. And teachers have come forth, and teachers are, he used to say, Mother Kundalini can make teachers out of straw. So it's a beautiful saying that goes side by side with the Americans are straw on fire. You give them something and, great to contemplate, and it just burns up right away and there's nothing left over. So this time we need to burn up what he gave us, like like what's left over from fire digesting its fuel, Upanishad says, and leave the sacred ash behind. That is the ashes of convention, the ashes of ignorance, the ashes of my old way of thinking, the ashes of my many lifetimes, and arrive here at this highest center, Jnana-Chakshu, or what they're calling here, the mudra of Sambhava. That is, this Sambhava is this highest bliss, this sweetest bliss, this deepest peace. That's where peace that passes all understanding really resides. Gyananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pado Padme Toye Shritva Pranamami Mahur Mahur Pranamami Mahur Mahur. O Ramakrishna, teacher of all, O Sharada, goddess divine, in bosom holding those lotus feet, salutations to both, ever be of mine. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Hari Om, Om.